Please do use that. Please do use that Q&A section if you have any questions as I'm working through. Now, this is more of a demonstration class, so I've got it set up in, we have 3 projects we're gonna make. The first one will be this little frame that you can add a hook to the frame, to your image, so you can hang your leash on there and customize it with your pet's name. So that will be our first project. And then we'll be making, actually our third project, the last one will be this Libby cup. And I'll show you how to use vinyl on your cup. And then we'll also customize a planter with a cutout, an outline cutout of your pet's name with ears on there. So each project, I have a different technique I'm going to teach you to use. So if you're just getting started with your silhouette, these will be very helpful, and you can use these. Different software has different applications. So if you happen to have a different type of cutter, you can still create these projects. Your software will just be a little bit different than the way that the silhouette software is set up, but it's not very major, which I found. So it's kind of nice that they transfer between the different software. So what I'm going to do is show you the slides that kind of walk you through how to do it. Then I'll go into design, the Silhouette Design Studio, and show you how to make it. And then we'll cut it out and make it together. So why don't I'm going to go ahead and jump right in and share my screen. I should kind of pull this back just a hair so you guys can see it. There we go. All right, so let me share my screen here. And again, if you have questions about as I'm doing the presentation, please do not hesitate to ask. And you know, Elsa will interrupt me if she needs to and let me know if I've missed a question or something. Okay, so this with your silhouette, you can dream it up and cut it out. So those are always my 2 things. Like whatever I dream up, I can always cut it out. For our first project, we will be doing the Furry Friends, the home decor. We'll be doing the frame first. So to make this, you just need to have an image, a frame, and paint it if you want to, and vinyl and transfer tape. So for this, whoops, that's not the right, oh, this is. Okay, so I'm sorry guys, 1 second here. Seems like I jumped some slides. I don't know if I got them out of order. Okay. I got 1 slide out of order, so my apologies for that. So for your first project, you may be able to find your image in the Silhouette Design Store. When I did a pet search, there were over 4,500 images that were related to pets. So you may find your perfect image in the design store. For what I was trying to do, I did a search for a dog butt, because I wanted the backside of the dog. So with your Silhouette software, you can upload images. So whether you get your images from a source like Creative Fabrica, Etsy, or another source, or design it on your iPad and then convert it over, you can upload images into your Silhouette software. Now, it is worth noting that while you can use JPEG and PNG images, these formats are more used for your basic images. So if you want to trace an image, or if you want to print out that image, that's really where your JPEG and PNG files will come in. Otherwise, you want to look for cut files in the SVG format. So SVG format is the, oh, I forget what it stands for now. SVG does stand for something, but it's more for your plotter type of application, like what your digital cutters do. So when you find the file that you want, you'll download that file onto your desktop or laptop. In the Silhouette Studio software, up at the top here, you would click on the File open, and then navigate to where the file is located in your computer. Once you've found your file, you'll open it up onto your canvas. Now for my canvas, I started off with a rectangle that was the size of my frame, so I could get everything in the proper format that I wanted. So I have the pink represents my frame, and I brought in that little corgi butt or Springer Spaniel butt, and I removed the tail on the design and replaced it with a dot. Now, did I need to do that? No, but I wanted to know where the tail was in relation to the design so that I could put my hook right onto where the tail initially was. And then I added some text so I could customize this name. I added a text box using the text icon here on the left, which brings a box onto your page. Using this green slider bar here, I'm able to adjust the placement of my letters, and then I got them into this long line here. There is, I'll share the link to this presentation with you at the end of the workshop. So there is a link in here to a Silhouette YouTube video that's really good about going further on what you can do with text in the Silhouette Studio software. So that's a great little hint. Once you have your frame designed, you can either mirror your image in the Silhouette Studio software by flipping your images horizontally, so that it mirrors your image, or you can wait and do it when you send it to your machine. It will ask you, send as a mirrored image or send as is. If you find yourself forgetting to mirror when you're using heat transfer vinyl or any type of heat application, you can always do that in the software, and that's just one step that'll remind you, because like once you get it to send it to your machine, you're always like, okay, I'm ready to go. So for this project, I am using a heat transfer vinyl, so I need to heat that up, so I need to mirror my image. If you're using regular vinyl, you don't need to mirror your image. And then that's all we need to do for to make this. So I did use iron-on material. Again, you could use just regular vinyl if you wanted to. When you use an iron-on material, most iron-on materials have a flat side and a shiny side. The shiny side is actually a carrier sheet, and I have one left out to show you guys, but the shiny side is your carrier sheet, and that's what holds all these pieces together. So when you heat it up, everything stays together. So you'll actually cut into the matte side, which is the material side, and that's why you have to mirror your image. Now, the one type of iron-on material I found that is reverse of that is the puff. If you use puff vinyl, you actually cut on the shiny side. Other than that, every other material I've used is you cut on that matte, non-glossy side. So you cut on this side. So I've already got mine on my mat ready to go. Why don't we go into, if you're gonna follow along with me, you wanna go ahead and open up your designs, your studio, your Silhouette Studio, and I'm gonna share my screen so we can have a look at that together. And this is the finished project, is the frame with hook. So I've got this all designed here. What I'm gonna do is just set it aside so I know what we're making, and then we're gonna go ahead and make it together. When your images are off to the side like this, it won't cut. What will cut is what is on your page. So this is this white square here represents my page, and this is what will cut. So we get that a little bit bigger. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is add in the downloaded file for my dog butt. Now you could go to the design store and find an image that you like and use that image. I just didn't find one of a Cocker Spaniel, and that was what my friend had as their pet, so I thought, oh, I'll do that. So I just go up to the file, and I say open, and then I'm going to navigate to the file where I've saved this image. So I usually have a file based on my project. So this file is called the Dog Butt SVG bundle. And in this file, this was from Creative Fabrica, and it has all these different, all the different dogs that you can use. So I chose the, let me think which one. I chose the, now I'm forgetting the Corgi, right? The Cocker Spaniel. My daughter wants a Corgi. That's why I have Corgi on my brain. So I just go ahead and open up that file. Now you want to look for either the SVG file, which usually has like your Chrome or your however you go on the internet. It'll have that icon next to it. You can also look at your files as with details. And mine's not showing me all my details right now. Let's see if I can expand that over and get my details. Here we go. So you're looking for either an SVG file, which sometimes is the HTML file, or you can also use the DXF file. Most, if you're getting your file as a source outside of Silhouette, most of them are SVGs. Sometimes they're DXF. Either one will work. So we'll just bring that file in, and it opens it up on another page. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it using my keyboard, Control A, which is Control All, and I'm going to do a Control Copy. So I'm pasting that to my clipboard, and then I'm going to come over to my frame and place that onto my page. Now I did forget to set up my frame. So I'm just going to grab this rectangle shape and draw a rectangle shape, and my frame size is 9 inches by 12 inches. So I can come up to the top here and unlock my proportions and change this so it's 9 by 12. So my frame is actually a bit bigger than my image will be, but I'm going to bring that right onto my canvas so I can see where it goes. And then just to kind of give it, make sure it stands out a little bit more, I'm just going to give that a fill color. And you can fill this with whatever color you would like to. Since that's the last layer I did, it's in front of my Corgi layer. So I want to send this layer to the back. So I just right click on it and I send that to the back. And here's my little Cocker Spaniel here. And I want to make this, the height of this a little bit bigger than 10.5 inches. So I'm going to make this, I think, about 11 inches. I'm going to lock my proportions so it doesn't distort it. And we'll go ahead and pop that up to 11 inches. Just compare to this guy, how big it was. Oh, this one was 12 inches. Okay. Is that 12? No, that's that. I wanted to see how big the Corgi was. Okay, so we're just going to keep this at 11 inches for the height of the Corgi. Now, the tail is the part that I mentioned I removed. If I right click on the Corgi, and I just get the Corgi sorry, I keep calling it Corgi. It is a Cocker Spaniel. If I right click on that, I can release the compound path and then remove that tail. And we're going to go into a bit more detail about how to do that. Just take that off. And before I do that, let's add my circle for where the tail is going to go. So just pop that in there. And then I will select the tail and delete the tail, because that tail will cut out of the center of the dog. And I don't want that. I want to not have that there. So there we are with the dog and the little circle there, and that will all cut together. Now I'm ready to add my text. So to add my text box, all I'm going to do is I'm going to slide these on the side for just a second. Let's grab everything and I'll slide that to the side. So I'll grab the text icon, that's that A, and I can start typing. So this one is for Teddy. Now I have the quick edit features up along the top, or to the right here, you can click that A with the line, and that opens up your text panel. In your text panel, you can see all of the different fonts that you have available. So your fonts that you have available are the same fonts that you've loaded onto your computer. So if you add a font onto your computer, like I've added this lemon milk font, which is the one I'll be using today, I've added that onto my computer, and then I'm able to access it in the Silhouette Studio. So this is going to be my name here, and I want each letter on its own line. So this turquoise bar here, I'm going to start pushing that into each letter, and that will move each letter onto its own line. Now I can bring this over to my canvas and resize it so it'll fill up the whole side of my page. So to do that, I just need to click back on the letters, this layered panel here, and then I can just kind of enlarge that as I want. I can enlarge it down and to the side a little bit if I want to. So let's just kind of move that around a little bit. So now I've got all the pieces on the canvas, how I want them to be displayed, how they'll go onto my frame, and I'm ready to cut it out. I'm going to slide the name a little bit closer to the dog, I think. Bring that a little closer. It's tricky to capture the name sometimes if you have something else behind it. It always wants to grab the bigger piece. So let's just grab that one and I'll slide that over like that. Okay, so now I'll have, this is what my design will look like. I don't need to cut the background unless I were putting in a piece of cardstock or vinyl in my frame. For my frame, I did use cork, which is kind of fun. So I'm going to set this blue piece off to the side and make sure I don't cut that. And then I do want to make sure that I have my measurements the same. So let me move the pink piece off to the side and grab my dog and make sure I've got my dog is the same height on both frames. So yep, 11 inches, and then my name was cut at 11.5 inches. So that's probably about the same. Yep, just about the same. So now I'm ready to send it to my machine. So I've got all these pieces that will cut. If you want to, you can go ahead and select all the different layers and group them together. This just keeps it easier so I can move things around together if I want to. So it groups it all together. And if it's easier to have all your cut lines look the same, you can certainly come in and turn all of your cut lines one color. And then you just go ahead and hit the send button, and that will send it right to your prepare screen. Now from here, you'll see if I choose the heat transfer material, and I'm actually using a reflective material, so I've chosen iridescent. It automatically changes your blade depth, your force, and your speed, and then you're ready to send it over. Now let me load my material in and make sure I've got it on my mat the right way, which I do not have it on my mat the right way. So let me just adjust that just a hair. So again, I'm putting the shiny side down. And I know you guys can't see this for the moment, but we will get there. I want you to see how it goes into the machine. So let me just send that into the machine. There we go. Shiny side down on my mat. You just push that in. I'm going to load that in. So once I've got my material loaded, it will change a little bit of what it's looking at. So here's my material loaded, and it says that it's ready to go. Now, it should say, if I hit send, slide this over that way just a bit. When I hit send, it will say send as a mirrored image or send as is. Now, because I didn't flip it horizontally, I want to send mirrored. So it should just flip it in the software and it'll cut mirrored on my machine. Can you switch to the overhead camera so people can see that? So here we go. It's doing the cuts. And I'm hoping it mirrored it for me. So I may have a problem. Yeah, have a problem. So let me explain what my problem is. I lined up my material on this side of my mat, but since I mirrored it, I should have, it changes it on the whole mat. So it flips the whole image to the other side. So it started to cut right here. So I need to just grab a new piece of material and send it over to this side of the device. So let me grab my material. What did I do with it? Oh, here it is. Right here. So I'm using this iron-on reflective material. And the reason I chose the reflective material instead of just maybe like a black material is to remind everybody when you go walk your dog at night, you want to make sure that you have either a reflective collar on your dog and reflective material on yourself if you're doing this at night. So let me just put a whole piece down here on the 12-inch. That way I won't have, either side it cuts on it won't be a problem. So put that right down there, slide that in. I like to use my brayer to make sure I have it all pushed down nicely. It's not going to wiggle on me. And then since I paused it, it'll ask, do you want to cancel or repeat? So I'm going to just go ahead and cancel it because I don't want it to start where it left off since I had to move it. So I'll just resend it and I'm going to send it mirrored. Okay, so while that's cutting through, if anybody has any questions, please do drop them in if you're wondering about anything I did in the software or anything like that. You can go ahead and pop those into the Q&A. And let me see if I can get that Q&A answered. There you go. All right. Now, I will be using my easy press, so I'm just going to go ahead and get that started and keep that up to 315 degrees. Now, I'm doing 315 degrees because I'm using cork, and I'll do that for 30 seconds. So we'll let this kind of heat up a smidge while we're getting everything else set up. I think we'll be able to slide that in. It's going to town, isn't it? So I've already measured my cork to fit into the frame. My frame is actually a frame that you can use to pour paint in. It's just got a white backing to pour paint in. Now, once I've got these made, I'll go ahead and use hot glue and glue these in. But until then, I can just slide them in and out of the frame. And I haven't quite decided yet exactly how to do the hooks, like if the hook should be screwed into the wall or if a command strip would be enough. If the command strip's enough, then that's what I'm gonna do. But I'm not convinced the command strip is gonna be enough. Okay, so I'll go ahead and just trim this down a bit so I don't, lose any material. I'll save that for another project. And you can kind of see the reflective rainbow on this material. It's really quite cool. It'd be great to make a matching shirt, for Father's Day or Mother's Day that says, you're the pet, the dad of Teddy or the dad of Penny, and have a fun little shirt to go walk your dog with, especially using the same type of material. So we're just gonna pull that up. Now, the iron-on material bleeds super easily, and you want to be a little careful because as you saw, I could just tear it. So when you want to make sure that you don't tear the actual part of the design, you want to make sure that that stays down on that carrier sheet. So you don't want to be too frivolous with your pulling and tearing. This will come right off here. Okay, let's get that name going. Now, if I need to, you can always adjust, especially since while we cut this all as one, I have the space between the name and the silhouette. So if I needed to move things a little closer, if you mismeasured or something, you can always come back in and adjust, cut your carrier sheet down and adjust it that way. All right. You could also, if you don't want to hang a leash from this, you could always hang your, the little baggies you have to carry when you walk your pet. That would be fun to have that kind of sense of humor there, especially with where the hook is placed. So I'm just using this weeding tool to remove out the little inside pieces. If you didn't have a weeding tool, you can just use your fingers and pull that out. You just kind of fold this a little bit on the side and it pops right out. So I've got my mat and my little dog here. So we'll keep that there, and my heat press just beeped and told me it was ready to go. So let me go ahead and use I'm gonna use the mat here. Just make sure that's big enough. That'll just fit. Okay, perfect. If you need a bigger mat, you can always go for a bigger mat, but this will all fit right on this mat. So can you see that? Let me come over a little bit more. Okay, so this is how it's gonna go onto my mat. Let me grab a bigger one. I think I'd like to have a little wiggle room there to make a mistake. So here we go. All right. So what we'll do is first heat up our cork here, and I'm just gonna heat it up for about 5 seconds. So I'll put my press on it and I'll heat it up for about 5 seconds. What that does is it sort of helps remove any moisture from your material, whether you're doing a t-shirt or anything like that. You always wanna remove the moisture. And then we're just going to take our little dog here and put that on. And I like to put a sheet in between, and it could be butcher paper or anything like that, just in case there's ever something like hanging over the edge, it doesn't damage your press. So I'm just gonna put that over the top there, and then we'll do this on 315 degrees for 30 seconds. I'm just gonna make sure I have it all on there. I do. Okay, and then I hit start. So it'll just take about 30 seconds. And with the cork, I found that it was better to remove the carrier sheet when it had cooled a little bit. When I pulled it up, initially I just pulled it up when it was hot, and that pulled up a little bit of the material with the carrier sheet. So on a second one, I let it stay there a little bit longer, and that worked out a bit better. And I'm just applying a little bit of a medium pressure there. Now, one other thing I did notice with the cork is that it sort of changed a little bit of the height and width when it was heated up so much. So I did do a preheat of this at the 30 seconds so that I made sure any shrinkage would already be taken into account. I'm gonna let it cool, and it will go flat. I know, like, it looks, I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of bending up. But look at that reflective on it when it hits the light. I think that's so cool. Okay, so we're just gonna let this cool off just a little bit. And then you just start from one corner and carefully remove that carrier sheet. Still is a little hot, so I'm gotta let it cool off. I always get impatient when it comes to these projects. You just roll them and cool over it. See if that'll cool it down a little bit. All right. It still is warm. I gotta give myself time to let it cool off, otherwise I'll pull it off too soon. I don't wanna do that. I'm always impatient. I don't know about you guys. I always like to see the end results. As I remove it, I like to kind of hold down on what's already been done. That way I can push anything down maybe that didn't stick or anything like that. Especially if you're doing it faster than you should do. There we go. And then if you wanted to hit it one more time, if anything, like that little spot didn't come up, you can always press it a second time. And to make sure everything holds down. And then we're just gonna put that right in the frame. And if I need to trim anything up to get it to fit, I will do that. There we go. And there's your frame. Oh, and then the last part is the hook. So on this hook, I've added a little bit of a command strip, and I can just take that right off and put that onto, oops, I put it on crooked. Put that right on, like that. So that's ready to go. Now the frame, I just will hot glue this part in and the frame will go up on the wall. All right, so that's the first project. The second project is the planter. So we can go back to the front camera if we want. All right. Great. So our planter, now this is really fun because especially I think if you have a cat and you have some catnip or something like that, or maybe you have somebody who's lost a pet, this is a great little gift to gift onto them. You can put little rocks in there with sentiments for the pet that maybe has crossed the rainbow. But I love the idea of doing it with a cat and having catnip in it, and that's a great gift to gift to somebody. So why don't I go ahead, I'm gonna share my screen again, and we'll do the next part here. We go here. Okay, here we go. Gotta get that set up for you. Okay. Put the wrong thing. Sorry guys, I've got my Okay, let's try this. Take two. There we go. Okay. For some reason it won't let me open up Zoom. There we go. All right, share screen. Here we go. All right, so our pet outline. Now this one does did a little bit more in the software in the Silhouette Studio to create this one. So I want to walk through a little bit of how I did that. First, I started off with this image of the dog, and I really thought this was so attractive with the dog, but it was more faith than I wanted. I was looking for something a little bit more generic. So what I'm going to do is show you how to remove all these elements inside the pet. Now, what I thought was important was to talk about what a compound path was, so you can understand what you need to remove. So for those of you who aren't familiar with some of these terms, a compound path is basically a path that's created when you have multiple objects combined together to make a single object. So sort of like if you imagine you have these two shapes, like a circle and a triangle, in a regular drawing, they would remain as separate objects. But when you create a compound path, those two objects are still independent, but they become part of one object, one overall object. So all those parts inside the dog's face are all part of a compound path, but each shape is still an individual shape. So what the compound path does, it combines all those multiple shapes, or the paths, if you will, the path is what goes around the shape, and it creates it into a single shape. So basically merging those into one shape. Now, what you have, so kind of like you might be thinking, well, why not just weld those? Why aren't those shapes just welded together? And the reason that they're not welded together is so that each shape is still an individual shape. So when you have a shape like a circle and the cone together, on the left here, I have the compound path. Now, with those two shapes selected and put into a compound path, you still have your circle shape and you still have your triangle shape. Whereas if you weld those two shapes together, they become one shape. So you only have what looks like an ice cream cone, which is fine. Sometimes you may just want the ice cream cone, but other times you may want to be able to separate the shapes that are put together to create one larger image. So if you'll notice that these gray little dots here around the circle and the gray dots around the cone, those show the paths. Those are the cut paths that your blade will take to cut these two shapes out. So it will still cut out a circle and it will still cut out a triangle. Whereas the shape that has been welded together, you have, it will only cut out where the outline of the shape is. So why step into this conversation? Because to do the dog face, you could just use the eraser tool and go through and erase all those different lines. However, understanding how compound paths work, we can release the compound path and that's what's holding all these different shapes together. So the compound path is holding the eye to the nose, to the muzzle, to the neck. It's holding all that together. So we'll release that compound path and change all of these into their own shapes, making it easier either to select what you want and group it together, or erase what you don't want. So you can begin to erase the different pieces once you have released that compound path. So you can see here what I have selected, and it's kind of hard to tell, but there's these little gray boxes around the different pieces that I've selected, and I would group those together and then remove all the other shapes. Like I lost a slide. And then once you have just the portion of the image you want, we'll use the text feature again and add a name to our ears. And in this case, I used a font called Campana, and it's kerning very nicely where those letters are touching each other. But if you look closely, there are cut lines in between each letter. So each letter will cut individually. And so for this last step, what I'll do is I will actually weld those together and remove those extra cut lines, remove the compound path of this shape, and send it to my cutter to go ahead and cut like this. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and jump into the Silhouette software, Silhouette Studio, and I'll show you how I did that planter. So this is what we'll end up with. And I've gone into my library where I have the Labrador Retriever, and I've found that image from the store. So I'll just double click that and bring that onto my canvas. If I right click onto my shape, it brings up the menu. So I want to do that release compound path. Now, again, you could come over here and use the eraser tool and then just kind of erase along all the lines. But by doing the release compound path and creating all those different shapes around the different squares around the different shapes, you can then select the parts of this that you want to keep. So I'm going to click off of it and begin to select the parts that I want to keep. So I would like to keep this left ear, and I'm going to hold my shift key down so that as I click, it selects more than one shape. I'll select this little arch there and the ear and this little piece that's hanging out inside the ear. You could also grab that, but I thought this little piece on the left was part of the eye, so I didn't grab that part. Now I'm just going to group these all together. Again, do that right click. I'll group these all together. Now I can just move the ears off to the side, select everything else, and I'll delete that. And then bring it back. So see how much easier that is than using the eraser tool? Just being able to kind of cut out the parts that you don't want without having to like drag in across everything. So understanding that compound path was important to being able to cut this out. Now from here, I can grab the text font, the text icon there, and type in the name Rocky. And I will select that and change that to, go here, and I'm going to change that font to the Campana font. So I love this using the text on the side because I can easily type in my, my font. Hit enter. And then we'll make that a little bit bigger. You can either drag it out or just change your points. Let's double that in size. That looks pretty good. I'll probably still tweak it a little bit. But again, let me zoom in so you can understand about what I was talking about with those cut lines. So in between each letter here, so the R goes into the O, goes into the C, goes into the K. If I were to send it to my machine like that, it would cut those lines into each of these letters. So what I want to do is select that name and then slide over here to my modify and weld all those individual letters together. Now they become one name and it's just one line. And I don't have all those little cut lines in between each individual letter. So if you've ever wondered why is it putting all those cut lines in there, that's why. Now we'll just tilt this a little bit. I always think Cricut is crazy because then it makes it a little easier if my things aren't always lined up perfectly. It's like, oh, it's crooked. I meant it to be like that. All right, so there's the name there. And let me stop sharing here because I have a different size planter. So this was the original one. And I have this other planter, which if you scour your sale bins, I found this one was on sale for $5. So what a great deal. I scoured my sale bin. So all you have to do is use your ruler and determine what size your image should be. So I've got my ruler, my old school ruler here. So it's about 3 inches tall. I can go down a little bit and let the ears kind of fall into here, but I think just 3 inches would be perfect right there. And so my height of my shape, I'll hold all of it together and change the height of it to 3 inches. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so when you have these selected, now these are still individual layers, so I can't change the width and the height of the whole image. So what I need to do is right click on that and group them together. Now you'll see I have my width and my height, and I can just change my height to 3 inches, and it will change the entire image into a smaller image. That makes sense. But I can still go in if I want to and ungroup. And then I can come in and change my name if I want to make it just a little bigger or a little smaller. You can still come in and change those individual elements. So let's put Rocky right there. Okay. And I still have, it looks like, okay, nope, it was just a really small line there. It looked like it had somehow lost its welding. So my material that I'm going to do is a vinyl, but it's a glossy vinyl. So I'll just change my material to a vinyl that is glossy. Okay, and it's going to do the auto cut with the blade, and I'm ready to send it to my machine. So let me get my mat prepared. So I have, let me see, which one am I using here? I have some glossy vinyl here. And I love the silhouette vinyl, the matte vinyl, but I didn't have black on hand. And I only have the glossy black here. So this is just the Cricut premium vinyl. So that is a permanent vinyl. And I'll be putting it on here. Now, if you are using a material that is not listed in Silhouette Studio, you might want to do a test cut so you know what your cut settings should be at. So if you did your initial test cut using a different material, then you want to make sure that you use that same material setting again. I have tested this out with the glossy material. And for this one, this back piece here is your carrier sheet. And this is your material, so you want to cut into the material. So we'll line up our material on the mat. And if you want to, you can use really so many different things. Looking to see if I have my brayer. You don't see it. So I'm just gonna use my ruler and make sure this is down on my mat. I don't want your material to wiggle on you. So we'll just tuck that in and go ahead and give that a load. And then I will send that to my machine when it says ready. Oh, wait, oops. Hold on. Stop it. I may have messed up again. We'll see. I noticed it's a little bit, let me share my screen. I'll show you what I think I may have messed up. So see where it's low on my material? I should have moved it. I'm used to having it automatically go to the to this up corner. So I maybe should have moved it. But let's see how it does. All right, you get it. And then I have the different types of transfer material that you can use. This is the Oracle, which I really love the Oracle material for transfer tape. And then I also have the Cricut transfer tape. So either one will work. Let's make sure how it did. The moment of truth. Okay, I'm good. Whew. I feel a little wasting of material there, but it didn't totally waste it. So that's good. So I'm just going to trim my transfer tape down here a little bit. We'll do it 4.5 inches, which is a little bit more than I need, but not too much. And then I'll trim it by 6 inches here. So I'll have that ready to go. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and pop this off. And I'll go ahead and prepare my material for the next one, so we have it all ready to go. That will go on the next one. Okay, so all I need to do then is to, again, weed out my image. And you weed out the same way that with vinyl as you do with iron-on material. So either way, you're just going to weed it out and remove the image. Remove the outside of the image, so keep all those little lines in there and everything, and the name. But you just grab your weeding tool on the corner there and begin to pull it back. Now I do it very carefully at the start there to make sure that it cut properly. And it did, got nice clean cut lines there. Make sure we get that rocky going. I'm gonna get a little aggressive with my weeding. Might go a little slower. And also another fun thing to do with your weeding is to weed out the inside, especially I do this on iron-on material, is I weed out the inside first. And that's so your hand doesn't stick to the design. And my R is kind of coming up on me here. A little aggressive with my R there. I think it came off inside, but I will show you how I'll fix that. So my R is right here. I pulled a little bit too much on that. I'm just going to take that right off of there. Got the inside piece in there. I think I'm grabbing the wrong piece. There we go. So the good thing is I'm able to put this right back in. I can either do it now onto my material, or I could wait until I get it all on my planter and then add this back on. We're gonna do it right now. This way I make sure it all goes on the right way. Okay. So put that right back down. And then we're gonna weed out all of our inside pieces here, come right out like that. Okay, so now the fun part, right? We have our transfer tape, and we're just gonna peel off a corner of our transfer tape. And I can sheet and use my little weeding hook there and get the corner started. Now, my trick is I usually will peel back about 1/2 inch to 1 inch on the transfer tape and have that pulled back, so that when I place that on my design, it's only on a small portion of the design there. And now I've got like this nice hingy effect. And I'm not dealing with a piece of transfer tape that's gonna get stuck all over the place. I can just do one little piece there. And if you want to make it easier and give you a nice glide, is use something flat like a ruler, and just rub that right across. Okay, and then just work out any little air bubbles or anything before applying it. So now I can take my vase here, and I'm going to clean the surface. So you always want to start with a nice clean surface. So I just will use a little bit of a spray alcohol on there, and I'll use a lint-free towel here and give that a nice clean surface to work with. Like that. And I have my towel here to kind of help so this doesn't roll too much on me. It's a little awkward shaped, but that's gonna pop right on there. And then what I like to do when I'm removing my carrier sheet is I start at a corner and I'll do a fold and roll. So I fold it a little bit to expose the vinyl, and then I roll it back. So you get that little bit to stick down, and then you carefully start rolling back your vinyl. If you need to, you can use your finger or your weeding tool to kind of hold that down if you need to. Especially with these fine lines, you may have to use a little bit of extra fingers in there to get that down. But you just kind of fold it and roll it. And if it doesn't come up from one angle, just set it aside on that angle and work your way from a different angle. So if I was having trouble from one angle, I would just take it and say, okay, that's not the right angle to come from. Let me come from a different angle and see if it works a little bit better. I think it just has to do with how those cut lines, how the shape of your image is, as far as like what is the easiest way to do it. And then you can make sure you don't, you have your little dots on your letters, and you want to pull those up. So just keep working it. It's good if you can get a long piece going in one direction. I think that helps. But you just kind of do that little roll, fold and roll. So as you go, you just can fold it and roll it. And the fold seems to always help me get it to stay down. I think that fold encourages the vinyl to kind of pop off the carrier sheet for you. Now, if you're using like a type of material that has a thicker carrier sheet, like a smart material, then that rolling feature really will help you. And then we're just gonna grab our vase, our planter here, line it up. Now I do a taco fold, so I'll hold these edges up and we'll put that right in the center and let it fall down. So you just can manipulate it across. And if you were doing something that had, like a sharper crease or something like that, you could just take your scissors, a sharper crease, I mean like an angle like that, and you needed to make sure that you've got the right angle on your shape. You can just cut your scissors, cut that piece that maybe is holding up and go right down like that. So something like this is a nice, easy shape. I don't have to worry too much about that. And I'm just going to bring it down. Put it up a little bit there. And then bring it down as I go. And then you just want to make sure that there's no bubbles underneath. So you run your finger over it as you remove your carrier sheet. And there we go. There is that one. How adorable. All right, how am I doing on time? I feel like I maybe am running up against time now.
It is the hour.
It is the hour, okay. So I'll just run you through. You do basically the same technique in applying this Libby wrap as I did to the vase. I will share my screen again and show you real quick how I did that one, like as far as the design goes. So this was my design here, and I simply took the dog mom image. So that came from the from the Silhouette store, the dog mom. And then I took this little paw and copied the paw and created the design. Now, in my presentation, which you'll get a copy of, it does walk you through all the steps to make this design. And so you know how big, if you're using a 12 ounce, or excuse me, a 16 ounce or a 20 ounce, it will tell you how big your shape needs to be. All right, and I think everyone has kept up. I love this. Everyone has kept up with our projects, and I said I was going to share that link to the presentation. Why don't I make sure I do that right now? Let me grab that link. And then if anybody has any questions after the class, you can always reach me at, let's see, sorry, let me get this one, that you can view. Let me copy that link. I'm gonna drop that in our chat so you can copy and paste that if you'd like to. Let me give that to everyone. All right, so you can always copy and paste that, and then you'll have access to the presentation. You can reach out to me on Instagram at kesley.365 if there's anything that you needed clarification on, or you just wanted to ask me a question about using your silhouette, using vinyl. Oh, you can't see this with my dark shirt on. Creating with vinyl or creating with iron-on material. So I'm happy to answer your questions. Do not hesitate to reach out to me. I do it all the time. So thank you so much for your time tonight. I'm sorry we ran out of time to get to that third project, but I think using the techniques from this, you'll be able to create that. Thanks everybody. Thanks, Elsa.